This is the third episode?
This is episode 3, yeah.
We got 45 RPNs with Ernie and Nigel Bard here. Episode 3. Always the trilogy episode is the best. So,
yeah, true.
So, today we're gonna carry on that tradition of talking about music, collecting, and everything in between.
Sounds good. I'm in. Count me in. Sure.
So start with walking me through. How are you doing today? How about that? That's a good question to always start a conversation.
Doing good today. The weather is just awesome. I mean, spring.
Yeah.
Spring is like nicest time of year, and it feels like spring today. Looks like spring, smells like spring, and so it's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, we wait for this day, so to speak, all winter,
Yeah,
So,
last week it was -30.
Exactly, a week ago
And this
it was
is weird.
-30. Yeah, and so...
I feel like we're in shorts.
No, a week later we got spring, and we're sitting here talking about tunes, and life is good. What can I say?
Man. It's good. It is good. So, did you pick out what were you listening to this week, Ernie?
What was I listening to this week? Well, all kinds of music. I always have my phone going. I have my chronological collection on there, and so lots of times I'll just go and pick out a playlist from, I'll just say, let's say January 1971. I want music from those 3 months. Let's say January, February, March, kind of that frame, and then I'll hit that, and then it'll play for like an hour and 20 minutes. That playlist, and my playlists are all the length of a disc because I've got them on disc in my car too. That sort of thing.
Cool.
So I listen to all kinds of stuff. I find myself listening to 70, 71, 72, and 73. Those 4 years, I find myself listening to more than anything else. 1970 was awesome. Like, you had songs like In the Summertime by Bungo Jerry. I mean, that was a world hit, right? And you had Reflections of My Life, English band, like just the greatest song. If somebody said that was the greatest song of all time, I wouldn't argue. It's just, there's a lot of stuff. I can run through this and be a little quicker and easier.
Yeah.
But I just go to playlist. I go to... let's see. It starts in 1960, so you got to flick a ways down here. Take off my glasses so I can see something. But let's say in January of 1970, this is what would have been playing on the radio. And these are all AM radio songs that would have been played on a 45, on a turntable, in a studio somewhere, in a radio station. And so, like Venus, Shocking Blue, One Tin Soldier was original cast. Raindrops Keep You on My Head, that was from the movie.
Yeah.
No Time by the Guess Who. Walk a Mile in My Shoes, Joe South. There's some pretty obscure songs in here. Oh Me Oh My by Lulu, and I Must Have Been Blind. I don't know, remember we talked about a band, Collectors, that we'll have to do that one sometime. The Collectors
That's right,
sing it. And Bridge Over Troubled Waters, that was a world hit too. That sort of thing. Who'll Stop the Rain by CCR.
Nice.
It doesn't get better than that.
Yeah.
And Love Grows, Edison Lighthouse. It's kind of the iconic 1970s song. Kind of like that. And then the flip side, of course, of Who'll Stop the Rain is Traveling Band, right there.
Oh, yeah.
And so they're both on here, and then Reflections of My Life that I talked about there. So that would have been the beginning of 1970, and so on and so on. So, but I'll just pick out a playlist and then run with it.
It's funny because when I'm very much an ear person, so like if I hear one of those songs, like instantly I recognize it. Again, and I always do recognize almost every single one of those songs, like because they were playing when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But naming them sometimes they just go like that. But when but when I hear them, because I play by ear, I'm very auditory that way.
Yeah.
But,
But most of these songs that I have on these playlists, the people don't know what they are. Like almost 100% of people will say, if I would say a song, let's say, like off of this list, I would say a song, Arizona by Mark Lindsay. You'd say, no idea what that is. If I played it for you, you'd say, I know that song.
exactly.
And I get that a lot.
Yeah,
I get that a lot.
Yeah.
You play some song,
Yeah.
and then, a lot of these are recognizable, but Come and Get It, Badfinger.
Oh, yes.
You know that song?
Yeah.
That's Badfinger was in with the.
Yeah. So
They were in tight with the Beatles, those guys. So they had but sometime we should do even a part of a podcast is on the group Badfinger.
I thought you were gonna do that this round. Like were you not?
I'd have to collect a little more information. I know some stuff about them, but they were what they called the tragic band. They're kind of a tragic band, like a.
Really?
They just
obviously
they just had no luck at
yeah.
all, and yet their music was so great and so very interesting band.
Okay.
And of course McCartney and Harrison, they recognized
Yeah.
the talent there, and they kind of took them under the wing,
Yeah.
and then they recorded on Apple and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So yeah.
Yeah.
But so that's I don't know. But you just asked me what songs did I listen to this week, and something happened today, in particular, that was just to me it was just awesome. I'm working early in the morning. It must have been like 9:30 in the morning or something. So I do carpentry, and I'm fixing this bathroom up for this lady, and I'm mudding. Not that this has any relevance, but my phone dings. I get this ding. Oh, I got a message. Of course, you're full of mud like this, and you can't go answer it right away. But when I answered it, when I went over and looked at it, it was a guy from Dryden, Ontario. His name was Darcy. He said, hi, this is, what did it say? Say exactly. And this guy, where is he now? Must be this one right here. Yeah, so this was my text today. He said, hello, Ernie. It's Darcy from Dryden. Thought I would send you a text to see how you're doing. And are you still with New Gen? That was the company I worked with at that time. But I put up, he lives in a modular house, like one of those Cape Cod modulars, and I put it up for him. 18 years ago, now he texts me.
Oh, that's wild.
Just to connect, just to say
that's
hi.
That's nice, man.
But I got to draw this into the music, right?
Uh-huh.
And so what I said, and after he sent me that text, I said to him, you mean Darcy Rolene Danielson? And he said, yes. He said, yes, that's what I mean. He says, you have a good memory. And he says, yes, I mean Rolene, laugh out loud. So, and what that means is, and to me, this is a really cool story because he said 18 years ago, so I'll take his word for it. I don't know when it was.
Yeah.
But I would put up these houses all over the country. And so we're in Dryden putting up this, Darcy and Debbie. And while I'm up there, I was working there. I was working there for quite a while, to put up a Cape Cod. Most of the time I was by myself. So I was there for probably a month and a half or maybe even 2 months or something like that. And so you get to know these people really well. And he was the greatest guy. The first time I ever drove a Hemi was compliments to Darcy because I will always talk Dodge trucks and Mopar and all this stuff to him. And one day he came to the job, or came home. To him, it was home. To me, it was a job site. He brought a brand spanking new Hemi truck.
Wow, man.
Like a Dodge truck. And he let me drive it. So I drove a Hemi once in my life thanks to Darcy.
Nice.
But anyway, I'm working upstairs. And all of a sudden, he's up there and he said, what's that song playing? I had my tape. Mm-hmm. I had my cassette tape there with all my songs on there. What's that song playing there? And I said, that's Rolene by Moon Martin. Oh, he says, I love that song. And so I did. I recorded it for him. I gave him a copy of that song so he could have it.
That's awesome.
And so, yeah. And then, so, of course, life goes on and I keep working and that. And then he told me a couple of days later, he says, I'm addicted to that song. He says, I told myself I can only listen to it 4 times a day. He says, I've allowed myself to listen to it 4 times a day. That's what he told me. And I'm like, oh my Darcy, you got it bad. That's how addicted he was to that song. And I thought, I'm not the only one, because I get addicted to songs too.
Oh yeah.
And I just thought that was very cool that that happened to somebody else. So I'm not completely nuts. There's a lot.
You're not, man. I do it. Yeah, but I don't stop. I don't stop at 4. No. I go like.
I know, but you have to. You know, if you have a song going in your head like this, round and round and round, it can drive you crazy.
But, yeah. So, what are we gonna listen to today? Maybe. Or I'll let you just carry on because you probably have that.
Go through. Well, you know what I did this morning or yesterday morning? I was thinking about that stuff you talked about, like the Glass Tiger, and so I looked up Glass Tiger and I found the album, Thin Red Line or whatever.
Yeah.
But no, not the album so much. I mean, I know what it looks like now. But on YouTube they had 2 songs I listened to. I recognized both of them instantly.
There you go.
Fantastic stuff.
They are good, eh? Like, yeah they're good.
First song was name some of their songs.
Someday and Don't Forget Me When I'm Gone with Brian Adams.
Don't Forget Me When I'm Gone was the first one I listened to, and then Someday. It was exactly the 2 I listened to.
And you could recognize the music when you
right away, instantly.
I'm sure your kids were listening to that.
And very 80s sound.
It's total 80s sound.
Total 80s sound. Yeah. As soon as I listened to it, it was like, oh yeah.
Well, it's like some. I mean, they carried on their music for a couple of decades, but like some of the long-standing band, like you probably have a good ear for like when you hear a band, you probably the Who or whatever, the Guess Who or like there's long-standing bands and then there's sort of one hit. Sort of
come and go bands for sure.
But I don't like to say one hit wonders because that's kind of derogatory.
Yeah,
there is like this sort of like bands that do a one off, and we were talking about that too.
Yeah, one hit wonders. Yeah, they're one and done, and they have a fantastic song, an exceptionally fantastic song, but nothing even close after that. I don't know how that works, but
it's a strange thing. Yeah, it's You'd think they'd have the formula nailed, and then suddenly it's like, where did that one go? So,
yeah, you'd think they would, and it's just amazing. And like even this Reflections of My Life by Marmalade, like there too, they had one song.
Yeah.
And it's really, really good. It could be the best song in the world, one of those, it's like really, really good song. Yeah. And they had another song which I discovered, and it was their other song they had was called Rainbow, and it was, I think I have that one along actually, and it was one of those songs that was on the radio but didn't really do anything, but I remembered it and I wrote it down. So, and then of course years later I tracked it down. But so I listened to some of that stuff, and then I went on to Discogs to check on those albums, like the price of the vinyl and all that stuff, and the album for Glass, or the Glass Tiger stuff, is relatively cheap to buy. If it's really, really mint shape, I mean, it might cost you a little bit.
Right.
But the shipping is usually more than the record. But the Def Leppard stuff.
Yeah.
The Def Leppard stuff is in the hundreds of dollars.
Are you serious,
the
man?
Vinyl.
Yeah. Well, I have a 45, like a rare 45 collectible of a Def Leppard cut that was shot in Liverpool at some random bar where they're seeing photograph, like some of their mega hits, and it was like, it's rare. I'll send you a photo of it so you can at least research it for me, maybe.
Yeah. Well, if you ever want to check out stuff like that, let's say you wanted to own that record, let's say, or you said you already have it.
I have it. Like I collected it when I was 12. I saw it like in a collectible store. I picked it up. Yeah. And it was mint. It was in brand new shape, and it's good shape. I hardly played it because it's a 45, and by the 80s or 90s or 80s when I was playing, there wasn't really even 45 players.
No.
Well, there were, but so I have this. That's cool. That's cool. Well, anyways, regardless, I'll fire that off to you.
But if you would go on to Discogs, that's what I do. I go on there and see what they're worth, what they're selling for on the world market, that sort of thing, and. You can find out very quickly what your 45 is worth. It depends on the shape always.
Yeah, I will check it.
But
that's cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's I like going on there, but yeah, I don't know what. A little bit of stuff from the last podcast, because we had said you and I were talking, and we said something about we'll have to research that a little bit. And I did. I researched Second Helping, the song "We're Dancing,"
Yeah.
and how anybody could hear it. Just go onto YouTube. Type in Second Helping.
So you found it there. Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
We're Dancing till it blows over, and maybe throw in the word Pagliaro in there somewhere too.
Yeah.
Maybe not,
Is
but
it
it'll
a
come
video
up.
or is it just the audio? Is
Just
it a
audio.
video? Oh yeah,
Just the
that's
audio.
Really good.
Yeah.
Man. That's good.
Yeah, so you can find that one. And which other one did we want to talk
Well, I was going to ask you about the year 45s were invented.
That's what I was thinking of. Right there, you nailed it. Okay. I did a little research on it. Remember I said 1958 or something like that?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I wasn't even close.
Oh.
The only thing that was close about that is the first stereo 45 came out in 58.
Oh.
But I did some research on here, and anybody can find it. You go on here and you type in the history of the 45, and it'll all come up. But very interesting. I'll give you a little tidbit here of what I found. And the first, recorded music started back in 1897 or some crazy thing like that. They started doing that. But and then then they had 78s. I think the first ones were roll, right? And then they had 78s from then on, and 78s were big and heavy and brittle and all that stuff. So in 1948, Columbia and RCA were the big ones, were the big companies. And so in 1948, Columbia came out with a newer, thinner, better vinyl, the 33 1/3. So Columbia came out with a 33.
I wonder, do you think it's related to like the war? Like, when wars happen, there's always like a huge influx in technology.
Yeah.
Like, and I sometimes think that like some of that, like Bluetooth came out during the Iraq War. Like I think I was somewhere around there, but
I think
like
you're right.
These infrared, like all these technologies bounce, and then they get used for entertainment purpose. When they filter out. So
probably economies always aren't really good after the war.
And they get developed specifically for military purpose at some time. I don't know what a record player would be used for, but maybe it was used for something.
Well, record players were around, I guess, before that, but then they came out with this 33 1/3, so you would have had all new turntables. Yeah. But RCA had to compete now, and so they thought they'd come out with something, so they came out with the 45 RPM.
Oh, okay.
And which was smaller, more affordable, and it was later on it became very popular as like even a trading card, like baseball cards and stuff. People would take their 45s to a party, and they swap and they play and all that. That's why you find names on these 45s, the old 45s. Everybody had their name on them because they used to trade at parties and stuff.
Yeah. That's cool.
It was really cool when I was reading this stuff.
Like currency almost, or like trading currency.
Yeah, and it could have been that too. And the first 45, was green.
Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. You want to just flash to the camera there?
Yeah.
It's like super cool.
Yeah, and it is...
it's like jade color.
It's a beautiful jade color. Texarkana, baby. By Eddie Arnold, and that was 1949, the first 45. That's what it looks like.
Wow.
We've got to say 45.
45. Yeah.
And then, so colored vinyl was very popular back then, as you can see. So what RCA did is, look at these colors, blue. Look at all these colors.
Oh my gosh, they're gorgeous.
I know.
Oh wow.
These beautiful colors, and
they're really
and so you can find this all on the internet. I mean, if you look.
Yeah.
You can find all this cool stuff on the internet.
Hold it right up to the cam there where that green light is, so they can just show one or something, and then the color there.
Yeah.
Sweet.
That's beautiful.
I can see where they definitely be a collectible, and also what I was thinking, Ernie, was like that how like around that time that, well, it was earlier, but the Industrial Revolution, where everything became like commodified and everything, like, you know, in terms of collectibles and everything like shifted when around like when industrialization became a thing, and then things got mass produced, and then and then it became like, yeah, it's like we became consumers of like goods rather than sort of like our own producers of whatever we do, you know, like, you know, like in that, up until the point of industrialization, the movement of industrialization, when it was all like, well, factories and all that, like before that it was like everyone was sort of like self-sufficient almost, like, and it was a different system, and after that we became like collectors almost, because there were things out there that were shared, like just multiples.
Well, I think as people get affluent, they collect, because if you don't have to worry about your next meal, right? If you worry about your next meal, where it's coming from, you don't think about collecting stuff. You're worried about
maybe you do
taking care of yourself and all that. But once the society gets more affluent, we for, you know, men especially, we tend to collect things, you know, accumulate stuff.
But on another level, like to tease that idea out a bit, like the idea that sort of like you know how like a group of a society of people who are, because I know people are very like dirt like poor and are collectors, and they make money that way, and it's like a survival thing. It's not necessarily because, like, it's not necessarily affluence. Like, I think where I was going with that was that, like, you know, collecting is almost like an evolutionary product of like the way people are thinking now, and like it's not, I don't think it's maybe affluence of like the human condition, but not necessarily like individual affluence, you know what I mean?
But I guess another thing about on that topic was, because when I was young, I had no money. We were very poor. We lived on a farm, and we did our work. And so all these records all this music I heard and I loved, and I taped it all so I could keep it and listen to it. But I wanted some of these records so bad. Like, for example, Share the Land album. I wanted Share the Land album, like, because I think I told you that my very first album was Best of the Guess Who. And side B was basically Share the Land album. And I loved that stuff. I listened to it over. So I wanted to buy Share the Land album. And when I finally had a job and out working, I found it in the record exchange, the same place there on Spence. I found it behind the counter. It was $40. And I couldn't justify. And at the time, I was making probably $3 an hour or some crazy thing. And I couldn't justify paying $40 for that record, and I wanted it so badly. So long story short, I have about 6 or 7 copies right now, because I wanted it so bad. And when I finally could afford it, I didn't pay that. I mean, I found them later on, years later, I found them for $4 and $5. I found them. You know, even the original, I found that the gatefold that you open and take from the inside, I have the original. And
so I think what I could reflect is that, like, I think your generation in general has been tested, like tested and tried and proven to be like successful. Like, you know, your generation, baby boomers, have been like
tail end of the
like,
baby boomers.
You're not how do you say it? Like entitled, and whereas you know, you want to talk affluence is like my generation, where it's like everything came easy and we just did not have a clue, and then things go to waste, like Amazon or whatever. Like, you know, the Amazon crisis, where, you know, things just get wasted. So, like, I think part of the have you ever done any research into like sort of the generational bridge of like collecting? Because I don't know, like, I think there might be something there I don't know. I'm not sure. Sure about that, but like, you're obviously, like, I think people have, like, I've known other collectors of your generation who are like, at least they know the value of what they're
Yeah.
collecting, and it's not
Yeah.
like they're wasting, like, you know, today's day and age, like, I hate to even point in that direction, but it's like people of my generation, I'll acclaim my generation, can be highly entitled and wasteful, you know, and it's just something that comes with the territory.
It comes with affluence.
You know, so,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm saying. All I'm saying is like, and I was just trying to connect dots, you know, in terms of like, you know, people of the baby boomer generation, probably that's where collecting maybe got wind, and it was like it was a very like sacred maybe activity.
I still wonder why I would buy, once I had this Share the Land album, why would I buy 6 or 7 copies? Why would I buy those other ones? I wanted it so badly. Every time I saw one, I'd buy it. I saw it, I'd buy it. So it's kind of like an addiction. But on that,
I don't think so, Matt.
But on
it's
that
like
same,
a fair addiction. It's a healthy addiction.
It is.
Like you gotta know addiction, Matt. And it's not like you're smoking cigarettes or like drinking whiskey all day long. Yeah. Like it's healthy.
Yeah, well, it's
not but it's like there's variations. Is all I'm saying.
But you know, in regards of being poor when you're young, one thing I've realized as I get older is I'm very thankful now that I grew up poor. And you know why? Yes. It's because I still appreciate everything. I love everything and I appreciate everything. And it all came from having that desire and that want from when you're younger. And so growing up poor, I think to me is one of the best things that ever happened to me, is growing up poor, because I have that. Now I appreciate everything. You know, you acquire something, it's so cool, you know. Yeah. And so. Yeah.
So what are we gonna look at today?
Oh, anyway, I was gonna read one more thing out of here about these 45s, and which is I found very interesting. Yeah. The RCA 7-inch 45 RPM, and I don't know who wrote this stuff. I never researched on. I don't know if it's.
You can just say the name of the website you're looking at.
I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is.
I think it's just. Well, we could add that in the liner notes, probably.
Yeah.
To give fair credit.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Anyway, it says the RCA 7-inch 45 RPM record was cute, very small when RCA first put this out as a competition for Columbia. That's what they're talking about. The RCA's very colorful vinyl. Each genre of music had its own color. Made it an instant hit with younger people. Popular releases were on standard black vinyl. Country releases were on green vinyl. Children's records were on yellow. Classical releases were on red vinyl. And R&B and gospel were on orange vinyl. And blue vinyl was used for semi-classical instrumental music. And blue vinyl with a black label was for international recordings. So I find that very interesting. And now if you get a colored vinyl, it's really a real novelty. Yeah. And back then they were all colored vinyl.
Yeah. But they're probably built really well. Like they're not like a disposable thing at all.
So to have one of those would be really cool.
Yeah.
And so I never thought about it. But anyway, so we want to look at a record today. And I never really even thought about anything or picked anything out for today.
Okay.
So maybe we're just
do a random dig in the box.
Maybe we'll just have to go in here and then look at these.
Go for it, man.
Look at the big list here.
Let's sort of dig out the process. You got your books.
Here we go. Farmer's Daughter, Blakewood Castle. Let's do that one.
Okay.
And Blakewood Castle is a local group, like local as in Manitoba.
Okay.
It's a Manitoba group, and Blakewood Castle comes from Derek Blake, I think he's probably the guy that founded the band or whatever. And so I don't know, I'm sure I have it along here somewhere. And Blakewood Castle was, I think they were Dauphin connection, like between Winnipeg and Dauphin there was a connection there somewhere with Blakewood Castle. And they're on Franklin. Here it is. Oh. They're on Franklin, and Franklin is one of my favorite labels, just for looks reasons. I mean,
yeah. Hold that one up so you see the look of it. It's a nice one, man.
Yeah.
It's
Like,
mint too. You keep it all mint, which is beauty.
oh, that's a beautiful record. And you know how long I looked for this one? This was also one of the ones that is in the category of the ones we've talked about, like Painter, Sunshine, Song for Sunshine, and We're Dancing. And this is right up there. This is right up there as in my favorite songs period, or in the top 5 or whatever.
Okay.
That sort of thing. So
What year was it?
this would be 72.
Okay.
Has it on there. And this band, like way back in the day, so in 1972, I didn't have a vehicle yet. I was still going to school, and I remember getting a ride from somebody, a friend or whatever, and we were in Roland, Manitoba, and there was a street dance there. It used to be street dances, right? Remember years ago, or maybe
no, I remember, man.
Yeah.
I do.
I know, especially in the 60s and early 70s, street dances. I even played at one of them one time.
Yeah.
And there was a band playing there called Blakewood Castle. And it was like, Blakewood Castle does that Farmer's Daughter song. So I had to ride down. So I seen those guys live in Roland, Manitoba. Roland, Manitoba.
And they're like, I mean, they're Manitoba band, but they must have made like an impact, you know?
Yeah, I don't think they, like, Blakewood Castle was never... They were like like most of the Winnipeg bands, like only a few made it.
Yeah.
The rest were like I remember years ago hearing that at one time, like I think Randy Bachman said, at one time there was like over 300 working bands in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
In Winnipeg, so.
And it's sorry.
And there's not many bands that made it big. I mean, the Guess Who did, and out of that spawned. BTO and that sort of thing. So not many bands made it big, but there was a lot of great bands, and this was one of them.
Yeah.
And so I searched for this song, and because I remember when it was on radio, Boyd Kozak on CKRC, he would pump the song. Like DJs had that power, right? And so he would pump that song, and he'd always say, "This is Blakewood Castle doing Farmer's Daughter," and then he'd play the song, and I remember hearing it only a few times, then it was gone. And so this is one of the Holy Grail songs, records too, that I look for. Like the Holy Grail probably would have been I've had several, like We're Dancing was a big one.
Yeah.
And this one would have been one too, so. So it took me years and years to find, and then I eventually got a copy from Richard Sturz, who passed away. May he rest in peace. He passed away like last year or something like that. Not very long ago. And Richard Sturz is Rockin' Richard, like the record show in Winnipeg. They have that twice a year, and I'd go to every one of those shows. And you know what he called me, and it was a real compliment. He always said to me, "Oh, here comes the Guess Who guy." Because I was always looking for Guess Who 45s and albums, and that's why I bought 6 of them.
Well, that was pretty cool. You had him in his Rolodex.
So that's what he called me. He says, "Here comes the Guess Who guy."
Awesome.
But anyway, and then I said to Richard the song I was looking for, and he said, "I think I might have that. I don't know if he had it at the record show." He said, "I think I might have that." And so I went to his place, and he says, "Come to my house," and he lived out in St. Andrews. So on a Sunday afternoon, I phoned him, I says, "Can I come down?" And so it was $20 for this record. And I would have paid $100. You know, that's how badly I wanted it. And so I bought that off Richard Sturz, and then I found another copy on, I guess on Discus, I don't remember, but I acquired another copy after that too. So now I have 2 copies again of this one.
Nice, man.
Yeah, and so you want to hear a little piece of it? I don't know if we can.
I think we don't have the time today, but
okay.
We could listen. I'm gonna listen to after our recording, but
okay, yeah.
I was gonna ask you one question. Was like, so when these bands would record. Like record on vinyl, for example, like produce an album.
Right.
It's not like today where you could like shove a bit of money into a producer and just record your own, even if you're like sort of like just like not even like I mean, there's novice musicians galore in our generation, and it's not. I mean, there probably were before, but in that era, I think when you got recorded on vinyl, it was almost like you got plucked. It was a sign, not a sign, but like when you got plucked to record, you were good.
You were good.
Whereas today and age, you just pay someone, you could record anything.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is like the albums of that decade and generation were like good music. So it's different when you're. Like I find to qualify all of this, like these conversations, like I think, you know, like there's the difference or distinction is that, you know, there are a few distinctions, and one is that the music was heavily like produced and like it was like I don't know how to say that, but you know, like it wasn't just a thing that sort of everyone did. You know, these are good musicians.
Oh, well, yeah. Speaking of good musicians,
professionals.
if you look at and the other song is Derek Blake, is the guy in the band.
Yeah.
But if you look on this side, you'll see Farmer's Daughter was written by Jay Hanna and Al Pennell. I don't know who that is last time, but John Hanna is one of the premier guitar players come out of Manitoba. And he's one of the writers of that song. So he was, and Derek Blake was known for his gruff voice. And later I'll play it for you, and you'll hear it. You'll hear his voice. And so, you know, and it was weird. It's the way life works. I looked for that record, and I didn't even know what it sounded like anymore. Like, that's how long it had been before I actually found it. Actually, I found it before I went and bought it from Richard. I found it. Another guy at the record show said he had it at home.
Yeah.
And I asked him if his name was Dennis. I asked him if I could come to his place and hear it. I want to at least hear the song. Yeah. And he says, yeah. So on a Sunday afternoon, I drove to his place, and he played the record for me, and then I got to hear it. And I hadn't heard it since 72 till maybe 10 years ago or whenever that was, you know? So then I heard it, and it was like, that's what it sounds like. It is an awesome song. It really is an awesome song. And then eventually I found it over there. And then I got another copy. I don't even know where. But I'm working, and after I heard it from him, it was like awesome. Yeah. And then I'm working in the condos here. We're building condos. And I had the music radio on. I was working on a Saturday by myself, and I had the music on. And CQY had... CQY had this show on every weekly, I guess, on Saturdays or whatever it was called. I can't remember. But anyway, they're doing all these Winnipeg bands, and they're playing them all. Don't you think they played that song? And I finally heard it, and I wish I would have heard it. You know, wish I would have heard it years. So they have it. You know.
Yeah.
Wish I would have heard it years ago. And so after I finally got to hear it, and after I finally had the record, then I hear it on radio. So it's kind of strange.
You willed it. You willed it into.
Maybe. So that's what I mean. It's kind of neat to want something so badly that it, it's just you never quit being, happy that you have it. That sort of thing. That sort of thing. Like still I love this record. I love it.
Yeah,
it's a great song.
So and it's an investment too. I find that the music to get like recorded, like those musicians were invested in all the way. You weren't talking about someone who just does it for hobby and then just produces their own. That's kind of where I was going with that other thought.
Right. Yeah.
But no,
they're invested already. Like these guys are those Winnipeg bands. I mean, there's so many of these Blakewood Castle bands in Winnipeg.
Right.
In the 60s. And you can buy the compilations of all these different bands. And this song is on one of those compilations.
That's cool.
But you couldn't get it till, later years when the CDs came out, and then eventually somebody did that. And so, but it was fun. The hunt is, as much fun as actually getting it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. It's interesting too. Like you say the hunt, and I always think like like the hunt involves a certain character of like searching. Searching where I'm just like when people search for something, or where they got the will to search for something, or like look for something, like that's in itself is like
it's a passion.
It's a passion, and that comes with a collector's personality, I guess. But it's really it's a beautiful thing, is what I mean to say. Like it's a beautiful thing when we got a couple minutes here, I guess, left, and then we gotta jet onto a performance here.
Yeah,
we're gonna have to save time for that, but we'll give it a few more minutes, but like 3 minutes, and obviously it's I might give it to you, the microphone to you, so to speak, and you tie this all up for us, Ernie.
Well, I'm just looking at my list here in front of me, and I'm thinking like we have a lot of stories to tell yet, and every one of these songs is like, and all this stuff. We'll have to do one episode, or we'll have to talk about it. I don't know if other people would find it interesting, but for me it was life changing when I bought my first. I saved up money and I bought, I don't know if it was Sears or Eaton's. I think it was Sears. Sears little cassette radio recorder. You could actually put a cassette in there. You could play your cassette, but you could record too. And So I saved money, and I don't know what age I would have been. It must have been early 70s, because all my music is from that era. So it must have been. So I bought this thing, and when I finally got it, it was like, it was the greatest thing ever. Right. It was one of the greatest moments of my life when I got that little player. And when I moved to Winnipeg, it got stolen on me, and I wouldn't give anything to have that thing back. But anyway.
I thought you said I would have given anything to strangled it.
I'd give anything even to have the cassette that was in there, have it back. But I recorded all this music, and so early 70s till now, it's how many years? It's 50 years, right? Do you know I have all those cassettes still that I recorded on that machine.
Really?
Like all these songs I have from when they were actually on radio.
Yeah.
And I have those cassettes, and I have the DJs talking in between. They're worth $1 million.
No kidding.
And they all play. Like you can put them into a cassette player and they play.
Wow.
And those are worth $1 million. Like to have that.
Yeah.
And it's AM radio, and so it's the AM radio sound. It's not perfect stereo like you would hear now, but it's an AM radio sound.